Over the past decade, one historic estate has come surprisingly close to rivaling the White House in public attention: Mar-a-Lago. At the height of America's wealth boom, one of the richest women in the country poured a fortune into creating a palatial estate on the shores of Palm Beach. The result was a sprawling mansion that captured the architectural grandeur of America's elite. To understand how it became one of the most famous properties, we have to go back to the age that created it. While Mar-a-Lago is closely associated with President Donald Trump today, the idea of using the estate as a presidential retreat predates his ownership by decades. Today, it is frequently described as a winter White House, but long before the property became a fixture in modern politics, its creator imagined it serving a national purpose. That creator was Marjorie Merriweather Post, one of the wealthiest women in America whose vision for the estate reached far beyond a seasonal residence in Palm Beach. Entertaining was central to Post's life. She frequently hosted diplomats, social figures, and charitable events, viewing hospitality as part of her responsibility as one of America's wealthiest women. Unlike many estates of the era, some of the cultural events held under her patronage were made accessible to members of the local community, allowing people from outside Palm Beach's elite circles to experience concerts and social functions they might not otherwise have attended. Completed in 1927, Mar-a-Lago quickly distinguished itself from the grand homes that were rising across South Florida during the Roaring Twenties. Post, heiress to the fortune that began with Post cereals and later became General Foods, spared little expense in creating a residence that reflected the scale of her wealth and ambition. Rather than simply joining Palm Beach's elite social scene, she sought to leave a lasting architectural legacy. And for a project this ambitious, the mansion itself was only part of the story. Long before Mar-a-Lago became one of America's most famous estates, its future was taking shape on a narrow strip of land between two bodies of water. In the early 20th century, Palm Beach was rapidly emerging as the preferred winter destination for America's wealthiest families. Drawn by its warm climate and exclusivity, wealthy Americans flocked to Palm Beach, filling the island with increasingly grand estates. By the 1920s, owning a home in Palm Beach had become a status symbol in itself. However, for someone with Post's ambitions, an ordinary oceanfront property was never going to be enough. She wanted a property that stood apart while taking full advantage of Palm Beach's unique geography. To achieve that, Post acquired a remarkable parcel of land stretching from the Atlantic Ocean on one side to Lake Worth on the other. The site provided private access to both the oceanfront and the intracoastal waterway, a rare feature even among the island's most prestigious estates. Its unusual setting would eventually inspire the name Mar-a-Lago, meaning sea to lake in Spanish. For Post, however, the location offered more than beauty and exclusivity. She imagined the estate serving a larger purpose, envisioning it as a retreat for American presidents and visiting dignitaries far from Washington. Whether that dream would ever become reality remained uncertain, but it underscored the boldness of her plans. Mar-a-Lago was never intended to be just another mansion, but a remarkable location alone could not create a landmark. With a site unlike any other in Palm Beach, Marjorie Merriweather Post needed a design that could match its magnitude and setting. For the project, she turned to architect Marion Sims Wyeth and theatrical designer Joseph Urban, whose combined talents helped shape one of the most distinctive private residences of the 20th century. Together, they envisioned an estate inspired by the great villas and palaces of southern Europe, blending Spanish, Venetian, and Portuguese influences into what became a masterpiece of Mediterranean revival architecture. Rather than constructing a traditional mansion, the team designed Mar-a-Lago as a sprawling, crescent-shaped estate that embraced its surroundings. Upper and lower walkways connected different sections of the property, while public rooms opened directly onto the open areas. The layout blurred the boundary between indoor and outdoor living, allowing guests to move effortlessly between elegant interiors and Florida's coastal landscape. The design was equally ambitious in its details. Exterior walls were built using Dorian stone imported from Genoa, Italy, a prized stone known for its strength and elegant appearance. The estate also incorporated roughly 36,000 antique Spanish tiles, some dating back centuries. Marble was used extensively throughout the property, complemented by gold leaf detailing and ornate fixtures that reinforced the estate's palace-like atmosphere. Every material was chosen not simply for luxury, but to give the home a sense of permanence and authenticity. Rising above it all was a 75-foot tower that became the estate's defining feature. Visible from land and sea, the tower served as both a visual centerpiece and a symbol of Mar-a-Lago's ambition. By the time the plans were finalized, it was clear that Post was not building just another Palm Beach residence. She was creating a landmark designed to be recognized from afar and remembered long after it was completed. And bringing that vision to life would require an extraordinary investment of time and resources. Designing Mar-a-Lago was an ambitious undertaking. Building it proved even more extraordinary. Construction began during the height of the Roaring Twenties, when Marjorie Merriweather Post was willing to spare little expense in pursuit of her vision. Materials arrived from Europe, skilled craftsmen were brought in to execute intricate details, and an enormous amount of labor went into transforming the ocean-to-lake property into a residence unlike anything Palm Beach had seen. From the very beginning, Mar-a-Lago was conceived on a grand scale. Every element had to be transported, assembled, and adapted to Florida's coastal environment. By the time it was completed in 1927, the estate covered roughly 37,000 square feet and contained dozens of bedrooms, reception spaces, and guest accommodations. At a time when even wealthy Americans lived in homes far smaller than that, the estate stood in a league of its own. The final cost was estimated at around $7 million, an astonishing sum for the era. Adjusted for inflation, that figure would amount to well over $100 million today. Yet for Post, the goal was never simply to build a larger mansion. She was creating a property designed to endure, combining architectural grandeur with craftsmanship intended to last for generations. When the dust finally settled, Mar-a-Lago had become far more than an expensive construction project. It had become a stage for the lifestyle Post envisioned. Stepping inside Mar-a-Lago was meant to leave an impression. The estate's grand halls, ornate ceilings, marble surfaces, and carefully selected furnishings reflected Marjorie Merriweather Post's desire to create a residence that felt closer to a European palace than a traditional American home. Every detail contributed to an atmosphere of elegance, from the imported materials to the intricate decorative finishes found throughout the property. The mansion was designed around gathering spaces. Reception rooms flowed toward terraces, gardens, and open-air courtyards, allowing guests to move easily between the interior and the surrounding landscape. The layout made full use of Florida's climate while reinforcing the estate's role as a place designed for lavish gatherings. Its architecture wasn't simply meant to be admired, but experienced through the social life that unfolded within its walls. That design quickly proved its worth. During Palm Beach's busy winter season, Mar-a-Lago hosted dinners, charity galas, cultural events, and distinguished visitors from around the world. Post also believed that culture should not be reserved solely for the wealthy, occasionally opening select performances and events to members of the local community. In many ways, Mar-a-Lago functioned exactly as its creator intended. It was more than a private residence, it was a social and cultural landmark built to bring people together. But even the most celebrated estates eventually face questions about their future. For decades, Mar-a-Lago remained Marjorie Merriweather Post's winter residence and one of Palm Beach's most recognizable estates. As she grew older, however, she began considering what would happen to the property after her death. Believing the estate could serve a national purpose, Post hoped it might one day become a retreat for American presidents. Following her death in 1973, that vision briefly moved forward when Mar-a-Lago was transferred to the US government. The estate was intended to host official visits and state functions, but maintaining such a large property proved expensive and impractical. After several years, ownership was returned to the Post Foundation. Its future soon became uncertain. Across the country, many grand estates from the Gilded Age and Roaring Twenties were being demolished, abandoned, or significantly altered. Mar-a-Lago avoided that fate in 1985 when real estate developer Donald Trump purchased the property, preserving many of its defining architectural features while transforming it into a private club. Over the following decades, the estate gained a new level of visibility and became one of the most recognizable private properties in the United States. Yet despite changing ownership and countless headlines, Mar-a-Lago remains one of Palm Beach's most significant historic estates. Its place on the National Register of Historic Places reflects more than its famous residents. It reflects an era when America's wealthiest families used architecture, craftsmanship, and footprint to leave a lasting mark on the landscape. Nearly a century after its completion, Mar-a-Lago continues to stand as one of America's most remarkable private estates, a testament to the ambition, resources, and imagination that brought it to life. If you found Mar-a-Lago's story fascinating, wait until you see the next architectural masterpiece we're exploring in this next video.